In a land where mothers are revered as the first gods we ever know, how easy it is to forget that even the kindest heart can break. She gave her days, her dreams, her every breath so her children could rise. Yet when the moment came, they asked her to watch from a screen. In our culture, we touch our mother's feet seeking blessings. But what blessing remains when love is met with silence and sacrifice with exclusion? My name is Anita Sharma. I am 59 years old, a widow, and I live in a modest home tucked in the quieter part of Bangalore. The fan creaks softly above my head as I sip my morning chai, the way I've done for years now. Alone, but not lonely. At least, that's what I've always told myself. For nearly 2 decades, I've worked as an office manager at a small law firm. It's not grand, but it gave me enough to raise my children, Ria, my daughter, now 32, and Arav, my son, 29. Since the day their father passed away, I became both mother and father. Woke before sunrise, packed tiffins, stood in ration lines, skipped buying new saris so they could have school books and tuition. In our culture, we say, "Ma ki dua, har musibat mita deti hai." A mother's blessing can wipe away every sorrow. But what happens when that same mother's blessings are taken for granted? I remember the day Ria got her first job. She touched my feet, eyes glistening with joy. "Mummy, one day I'll give you everything you've ever dreamed of," she said. I smiled, cupped her face, and replied, "I only dream of seeing you happy, Betty." That was enough for me, always. I never asked for gold bangles or to rest in some haveli. My only wealth was in the pride I felt watching them grow. Ria with her sharp mind and stubborn heart, and Arav with his quiet strength. Last month, Ria called to say she was getting married. My heart leapt. I started knitting cushion covers in her favorite maroon. I even took a small loan to help with wedding costs. After all, Shadi in our culture is not just a celebration, it's a blessing, a sacred milestone. And every mother dreams of seeing her daughter become a bride. We laughed about lehengas and food menus. I told her I'd make her childhood favorite, bisan ladus, for the guests. She giggled like she was 10 again. For a brief moment, I felt the old closeness return. But sometimes, the silence between words tells a different story. That silence, it came a few weeks later, wrapped in an email that would quietly shatter the very core of what I thought we had. It was a Tuesday morning when the email arrived. I had just placed fresh tulsi leaves on my little prayer shelf and poured myself a cup of chai. I opened my phone, expecting perhaps a message from Arav or a reminder about my electricity bill. But there it was, an email from Ria. No subject line, just her name sitting quietly in my inbox like an unexpected guest. I smiled, touched the screen gently, imagining her words would carry some new excitement about the wedding. Maybe a photo of her lehenga, or a song suggestion for the sangeet. But as the words unfolded, that smile faded. "Mummy," it began. Not dearest mummy or ma like she used to call me in her school notes. Just mummy. Formal, cold. She wrote that after finalizing the guest list with her fiancé Aditya and his family, they had decided to keep the ceremony small and intimate. They wanted only essential guests at the Udaipur Palace venue, and so they thought it would be better if I joined via Livestream. "It'll be just like being there," she added, followed by LOL. That one word, LOL. I stared at it as if it had thorns. Was I now an extra in my own daughter's wedding? After 32 years of putting her first, was I now reduced to a pixel on her screen? I didn't cry. No. I just placed my phone on the table, let the chai grow cold, and sat in silence. The kind of silence that wraps around your bones and whispers, "This is what it means to be invisible." Then, I typed 4 words in reply. "Sure. Enjoy your big day. No drama, no guilt, just quiet surrender." And in that stillness, I felt something shift. It was as though every bisain laddu I ever made, every sari I stitched, every night I stayed awake for her fever, had just evaporated into that 4-word email. For the first time in my life, I felt like a mother who was no longer needed. Not with love, only with money. And I knew this time I wouldn't just stay silent. I would act. That afternoon, as I was organizing files on my desk, my phone began to buzz nonstop. 9 missed calls, 12 messages, 2 voicemails. Ma, where are you? Why are you not answering? The wedding planner just called. They said the payment hasn't come through. You sent it already, didn't you? Please don't do this. Everyone's in a panic here. I looked at the screen, then quietly turned the phone face down. I went back to reviewing the contracts. I wasn't angry, nor did I feel the need to explain. Because I had given them everything. My love, my presence, my quiet sacrifices. But they only remembered me when money was involved. At 3:47 p.m., another message popped up. Aditya's parents are furious. They say this proves you can't be trusted. Ma, please, we'll talk again about you attending. Just please send the money today. Please. Now they were willing to talk about me attending the wedding. Not because they felt remorse, but because they were desperate. I sat still, my fingers gently resting on the rim of my cold chai. Not a single word in reply. Only silence, my last remaining power. And this time, it was enough. As the sun began to set, I left the office alongside my colleagues. Robert, my boss, kind, perceptive, never one to pry, turned to me gently and asked, Anita ji, you seem more peaceful today. Everything all right at home? I smiled softly. Peaceful. For the first time in a very long while. The next morning, I woke up before the sun, as always. The birds were just beginning their chatter outside, but my mind was already full. There were 6 missed calls from Ria, 3 texts. Mummy, please don't be upset. It's not like we don't want you there, it's just, Aditya's parents are very particular. Please understand, it's not personal. Not personal? What part of being cut out from your only daughter's wedding is not personal? I didn't reply. I simply bathed, tied my hair in a loose bun, wore my plain beige sari, and stepped outside into the stillness of morning Bangalore. But instead of taking the auto to my office, I walked towards First Trust Bank, just 5 minutes away. Carlos, the branch manager, a kind Goan man, who always offered me tea, greeted me with his usual smile. Good morning, Mrs. Sharma. What brings you in so early? I sat down across from him, keeping my voice steady. I need to cancel a wire transfer. He blinked. The one scheduled for the Udaipur venue? Yes, I said, that one. He hesitated, fingers pausing above the keyboard. There might be a small cancellation fee. May I ask? The reason doesn't matter, I cut in softly. The wedding has changed. He nodded slowly. You're lucky. It hasn't processed yet. Just in time. Good, I replied, without blinking. That was 40 lakh rupees, money I had saved for years, for this moment, for her joy. Added to the 25 lakh I had already sent, it would have been 65 lakh in total. For a wedding I wasn't welcome at. Carlos handed me the cancellation slip. I signed it. As I stepped outside into the warm sunlight, I felt something unfamiliar, yet powerful. I had finally chosen myself. That evening, just as I turned on the porch light and slipped off my sandals, the doorbell rang. It was Arav, still in his office clothes, tie loosened, sleeves rolled, holding his phone like a shield. Can I come in? He asked, but didn't wait. He walked right past me into the living room. I shut the door calmly, silent. Have you seen Ria's messages? Mikey asked, pacing. She said you're refusing to attend the wedding now? I looked at him and asked gently, You didn't think to greet your mother first? He sighed, agitated. Ma, this isn't about greetings. Everything is falling apart, and Ria's freaking out. I sat down slowly, folding my hands in my lap. Why is she freaking out? Because I'm not attending a wedding I've already been disinvited from? Arav hesitated. You know Aditya's parents are covering most of the cost. They're traditional. They wanted a controlled guest list. I raised an eyebrow. Traditional? I already gave 25 lakh rupees. I was about to give 40 more. That's not tradition, Beta. That's a transaction. His face paled. Wait, you were going to send another 40 lakh? I was, I said quietly. But I'm not anymore. He looked stunned. Ma, they're counting on that money. The venue, the catering, everything depends on it. I didn't raise my voice. Is? Not my concern anymore. I was told to watch from a screen, remember? Isai. He threw up his hands. You always make everything about yourself. And that was the moment something inside me snapped. Get out, I said firmly. What? You heard me. Get out of my house. Ma? I've given everything I had. I'm done being the villain in a story I wrote with love. He stood frozen, then quietly turned and left. The door clicked shut, soft, but louder than any slam. I stood alone in my living room, heart pounding. And for the first time, I didn't feel guilt. I felt free. A week passed. The calls became fewer. The messages shorter. Then, one evening, just as twilight settled over the neighborhood, and I lit the dia on my prayer shelf, the doorbell rang. I hesitated for a moment, then opened the door. It was Ria. She looked nothing like the radiant bride she was supposed to be. Her makeup-free face was pale, her eyes swollen from crying. She clutched her dupatta nervously, like a child caught in a mistake. Hi, Mummy, she whispered. I stepped aside. She walked in, slowly, as if unsure she was welcome. She looked around the house, the same curtains she picked in college, the chipped Ganesh idol by the TV, the brass plates polished just for her wedding. Everything familiar, everything full of me. We stood in silence. Then she said, her voice cracking, I made a mistake. I didn't answer. I just poured her a cup of chai. She sat across from me, hands trembling around the cup. I thought being accepted by his family was more important. I thought if I followed their rules, everything would go smoothly. But Mummy, I was wrong. She looked up at me, tears spilling down her cheeks. No one there cares if I've eaten. No one asks how I'm feeling. And the moment your money stopped, they stopped pretending to be nice. Her voice broke. I missed you. I missed the way you hold my face when I cry. I missed your food, your voice, your everything. I'm sorry, Mummy. Please, forgive me. I didn't say a word. I just reached across and held her face in my hands, like I always had. She broke down, sobbing into my lap like she was 10 again. And in that moment, I didn't feel vindicated. I felt whole. After that evening, things didn't magically fix themselves, but something had shifted. Quietly, deeply. Ria started coming home every Sunday, not to ask for money, not to fix anything, just to sit beside me in the kitchen, help knead the dough, drink chai without rushing. Sometimes we didn't talk much. Sometimes we laughed like we used to. She still lived with Aditya, but she was different now, softer, more aware. One afternoon, she placed her head on my lap and said, Mummy, I never realized how much noise your silence carried. I used to think love meant always saying yes, but now I know. Love also means knowing when to say no. I stroked her hair, kissed her forehead, and simply said, Now you understand. As for me, I didn't go back to being the mother who gave everything without pause. I made a new rule for myself. If my presence is optional, then so is my effort. I read again. I joined a pottery class. I traveled with a friend to Rishikesh. I sat by the Ganga and let the river carry away decades of exhaustion. And I finally understood. A mother's love is boundless, yes, but not bottomless. Ria never asked me for another rupee. But she gave me something I'd been missing for years. Her time, her respect, and her arms around me just because she wanted to, not because she needed to. Sometimes the strongest kind of love is the one you learn to give. To yourself.